everyone, welcome to the Bougie Miles YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with bougiemiles.com, I'm all about helping you travel as luxuriously as possible while spending as little cash as possible. Today we are joined by my little dog. I don't know if you can see him. Hi, say hi. Okay, anyway. So today I wanted to talk about Chase's 524 rule, which is something that I've probably referenced in each video that we have done, and I haven't actually gone over it. So if you're not familiar with Chase 524, this is basically an unwritten rule that Chase will definitely not spell out for you. Side note, I think a lot of us in the credit card game figured out that there was such a rule when we got denied for our first card ever by Chase. I'll never forget that I filled out an application online. I got like a pending, which I didn't really remember having ever gotten before, but I didn't think much of it because my credit was probably like 830, 840. This was probably like 7 or 8 years ago. About a couple weeks later in the mail, I got a rejection letter and I was blown away. It was like, how could I have possibly gotten rejected for a card when my credit is well over 800? And then, you go online and you start to Google things and try to figure out what happened here, and it turns out that there is a very real rule that Chase instituted several years ago that basically says if you have opened 5 credit cards or credit accounts over the last 24 months from the date of your application, you are not eligible for certain Chase cards. To my knowledge, every Chase card at this point, unless you're product changing or there's some special exception. There's always some special exception. I'm not sure what that might be, but anyway, every Chase card is subject to the Chase 524 rule. A few specifics for you to know about the Chase 524 rule is that it applies to all cards. However, certain cards don't count toward your 5-card allotment because they're not on your personal credit report. This is a lot of business cards. A common misconception is that business cards don't count towards your 5 allowable cards. That is not true. It's only whether it's reported on your personal credit report, because how else is a bank going to know whether or not you've applied for a certain card if it's not reported? Certain banks' credit cards, certain banks' business credit cards are reported. That includes Capital One and Discover. I'm not sure about the others, but a quick Google search will definitely point you in the right direction there. So yes, they do count, but only if Chase can verify that you've opened them. The other thing that people are slightly confused about is whether authorized user accounts count toward your 524 status. They do not count, but I want to say that with a couple of qualifications. Number one, they do appear on your credit report. So the Chase gods, we'll call them, the Chase application gods, will deny your current application if your account shows that there are more than 5 opened cards, including authorized user cards. The way to get around that is just to call the Chase reconsideration line and have a chat with them about the fact that those are simply authorized user cards and you are not primarily responsible for the bill in any way, shape, or form. The second way to do that is to have somebody remove you as an authorized user. I will post a link to a really great post from Doctor of Credit that details how to be removed as an authorized user for each bank. You can actually do that before you apply for the Chase card and save yourself some time. Because I found that the Chase reconsideration calls can be pretty time consuming and a little painful, especially for the business cards. They ask so many questions. You might say something wrong and get yourself denied for a different reason. The Chase 524 rule is the reason that many bloggers and credit card experts will suggest that you get your Chase cards first before you start applying for other rewards cards. Of course, every issuer has its application rules and its approval rules, But I think the reason that everybody talks so much about Chase is because they have some of the most lucrative cards on the market. They are, I believe, the biggest issuer. So obviously they have the most cards, the most business, the biggest sign-up bonuses, some of the most useful cards. I prefer Amex, but I think I'm in a league of my own there. Well, not exactly, but the majority of people definitely prefer the Chase cards. Which cards count for 524? Again, that's all personal cards and any card that shows up on your personal credit report. That includes store cards and other restricted use credit cards. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can't get a Chase card while you're over 524. It just means you can't get approved for a new application. So what does that mean? Basically what I'm saying is that you can probably product change to a different card if it's within the same family of cards. I personally would like to get the Sapphire Reserve next year, but I've had the Chase Sapphire Preferred for 10 years now, or a very long time. I don't know how long exactly. I'm not that old. So I've had the Chase Sapphire Preferred for a very long time now, and eventually I am going to redeem my Ultimate Rewards points through the portal. When you actually have the Chase Sapphire Reserve, your points are worth a little bit more when booking through the portal than they are with the Preferred card. So that's a reason that I might want the Reserve card. Now, obviously, most people are over 524, so one way to get around that and still get the card you want is to product change. And they will allow you to product change from a Sapphire Preferred to a Sapphire Reserve. And that goes for downgrading as well. Often the rules for each issuer is just that it's in the same product family. So if it earns cash back, you're most likely able to product change to another cashback credit card. Like I would assume, I mean, I haven't done it, but I'm 99.9% sure that you can product change from a Freedom Unlimited to a regular Chase Freedom with the 5% rotating categories. A major misconception, hold on, I need to take a sip of my wine. Sparkling wine, and my sister got me these adorable glasses. It says sparkle. See, sparkles. I love sparkles. Thank you, Leah. Okay, so a very common misconception that I see over and over again, and it's even hard to explain, is that you can get a Chase business card because business cards don't count toward your 524 slot. So what's really interesting about this is that Chase business cards are subject to the 524 rule, meaning you cannot get a Chase Ink Preferred if you are over 524. However, very interestingly, the Chase business cards do not take up one of your 5 slots. So basically what a lot of people do who have small businesses, they apply for the Chase business cards first because they are not reported on your personal credit report. And then they go for the rest of the Chase family credit cards. But you still need to be under 524 in order to get one of those Chase business cards. It's just that it doesn't count toward your allotment of 5 cards over 24 months. Actually, while we're speaking about, wow, that was very aggressive. Actually, while we're speaking about product changes, something that I should definitely mention is that if you product change from one card to another and they close the account and reopen it with a new card number, that is definitely going to count towards your 524 allotment. I'll give you an example. This happened to me a few years ago when Citi closed all of their Hilton cards. They moved the Hilton cards to Amex accounts, and I got a new hit on my credit. This happened to me again with Citi actually 2 years ago. I downgraded a Citi Prestige card to a Citi Thank You Premier. And even though the person told me it was not going to be a new account, basically on my credit report, it got closed and then reopened with a new account number. So I am still waiting. I think I have about 6 more days till I'm eligible for another Thank You Rewards card. Don't worry, there will be a different video for each bank, and then we'll probably have one that puts everything together. How do you know if you're over Chase 524? The answer actually is not just by memory, because there's no reason to have extra hard inquiries that show up when you apply for a credit card if you're not going to be approved for it anyway. I like to use Credit Karma. I log into my Credit Karma account, I go to Accounts, and then if you basically just look at each account, it'll tell you the date it was opened. Make sure that you also include your closed accounts. It does not matter that you closed the account. All that matters is that it was opened within the last 24 months. Even though it's closed, still counts, okay? So you're gonna scroll through. I just basically look at each card, I look at the date, and I write it down. If I get to a point where I'm over 5, I then look to see whether they're authorized user accounts or not. The reason I do this is not because authorized user cards count, but when you call Chase, it's very easy for you to tell them, oh, I have X amount of cards, but the city one opened in August of 2019 is actually an authorized user account. And they'll say, oh, okay, hold on. And then, so it's easier if you know which ones are and which ones aren't. Let's talk about how to get around the rule. And I'm just going to tell you, don't. Creative ways to bypass issuer rules are really great ways to get banned or frozen. This is especially if somebody sends you or tells you that they have this link that you can apply for the card that seems to bypass 524. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. If it's your first card ever with Chase and you want to do it, like in other words, if you don't have any rewards currently outstanding with Chase and you have no balances, then okay, fine. I guess no harm, no foul. But I like to do things the proper way because to me, one of the most sickening things that could happen to me would be that all of these rewards that I've worked so hard on accumulating over the last few years would be taken away because I did something stupid like apply for a card that I wasn't supposed to instead of just waiting. There are other ways to get around the rule that are legitimate, which is to apply for only business cards. Another way is to maybe see if a card that you're not using can be removed from your personal credit report. I'm sure that would be a your mileage may vary situation. We call that YMMV. In light of all of this information, what are the strategies for dealing with 524 and still building your credit card rewards portfolio? Apply for Chase cards first. I realize that this strategy is not always viable because sometimes Chase will come out with a new card, or there will be a new rule, or maybe you've had too many applications over a certain period of time. But I think that's a really good place to start. The second, and the way that I actually got under 524 and still am, I know when I tell people that, they're so shocked. Like, how are you still under 524? It's because there are so many amazing business cards out there that I just started applying for those exclusively. Also because I was getting a mortgage, and when you apply for your first mortgage, especially if it's like your first home, it's probably a good idea to limit your credit applications because that's definitely something that they will look at when deciding what amount you're eligible to borrow from the lender. That was basically the backdrop and the reason that I started to apply only for business credit cards. However, it ended up working out really well, and I discovered some of my favorite cards that a lot of people don't have because they don't focus on business cards. The other thing about that is that I really like to look at the spending offers on certain cards. Citi actually does this a lot with the Thank You Preferred and the Thank You Premier. They'll send an email or snail mail that says, for the next 3 months, anything you spend at clothing or toy stores or sporting goods stores or whatever, department stores, I don't know, you'll get 5 times the points per dollar. Chase does it a lot with the Hyatt card. That's all that's coming to mind at the moment, but oh, actually, that's not true. Amex just recently did it with the Bonvoy card, and the store cards are constantly doing stuff like that. All of this is basically to say that you can take advantage of spending offers and earn a ton of miles and points without needing a new sign-up bonus. Obviously, sign-up bonuses are the most lucrative, but they're also the most heavily scrutinized by the banks, and they're the most restricted. So what's a viable Chase application strategy? I like to do it low and slow. That's what she said. Personally, I've been under 524 for a couple of years now, and I really have taken my time and very carefully planned my applications because I want to make sure that I stay on their good side and that I get approved for all of the cards that I really want. So number 1, business cards first if you're eligible. If you want to get multiple business cards, which you might because they have some excellent business cards. This might sound crazy to people, but I actually like to keep 6 to 12 months in between each application. As I've said, if you're eligible for business cards, there are so many out there, you can get a different business card in between that won't affect your status. Number 2, spend on your cards. Don't give Chase a reason to think that you're churning, right? So like if you earn 80,000 points on the Chase Ink Preferred card, and then you stuff it in the sock drawer, the proverbial sock drawer as we all like to call it, that's not a great look when you try to apply for the Ink Unlimited, right? Because Chase is gonna look at you and say, well, why do you need more credit with us when you barely spend on this card as it is? The other thing that I really like to do in between Chase applications is a little bit of, we'll call it stupid spending. I like to spend on non-bonus categories because that is the opposite of what a churner would do. Let's say I'm working on a Chase Ink Preferred bonus, right? The reason I do that is to let Chase know that I'm not some expert credit card person. They might know now, but hazards of the business, right? The reason I do that is to let Chase know that I'm not gaming their system. I'm using their card for value. They're getting value out of me. I'm getting it out of them, right? It's a give and take. If you have a positive relationship with Chase, you will be more likely to get approved for your cards. I can't tell you how many people let me know, oh, I took my Bank of America or Chase or Citi card out and I spent $300 on it and I still got denied for my next card. $300 or $500 or whatever, that's not enough for the bank to say, oh, this person is a valuable customer. Maybe try using the card exclusively for a couple of months. Put some transaction history to your credit profile to let them know that they're also getting positive value out of you as a customer. So the next part of the strategy would be to carefully plan your applications after business cards. And what that means to me really is just apply for the cards first that you definitely want. Like for me, I did the Hyatt card as my first personal application because I knew I definitely wanted that one, right? But in the future, I plan on applying for the British Airways card. But that card was way less important to me, so I'm prioritizing it last. So if you're somebody who likes to be told exactly which card to go for, my personal preference would be to start with the Chase Freedom. This is if you don't have a business. It is one of the best cards in the market, and it's 100% a keeper card for the rest of your life. There's no reason you would ever cancel that card. From there, I would then go to the Chase Sapphire Preferred. You could also get a Chase Sapphire Reserve, but at some point you would want to downgrade it. My plan with the Preferred and the Reserve is basically to just switch them off as necessary over the next 50 years of my life, or however long they're around. Be smart, okay? This is a really long-term game. If you provide value to the credit card issuers like Chase, Citi, and Amex, they will provide it back. I have gotten so much more out of this hobby, now career, than I ever possibly imagined, and it's because I've always followed the rules. That's not to say that I haven't taken advantage of every single thing. What it does mean though is that I've never tried to get around things or tried to do anything shady with a program that I valued. And Chase is one of those things that people are so distraught over losing, like Ultimate Rewards and basically just all of the different credit cards that they have, that it's really worth it to try to stick to the rules and try to do your best to be a good customer for Chase. And then there are other people who, you know, joke around, they're LOL 24, which means like way over 524. And they end up being okay with that too, right? I was that at one point and I started applying for business credit cards. But every once in a while, Chase releases a card that makes you really question all of your recent decisions if you're not eligible to apply for it. In summation, be mindful of 524 and let me know how it goes. Hi everybody, welcome to Bougie Miles. This is my